The river was too still. Usually, the river of echoes lived up to its name, bubbling with the sounds of the forest. But today, the water was as flat as a polished mirror. Adanna stood on the bank, her chest heaving, her hands trembling. She looked down at her reflection. Her fine neck beads were tangled, and her waist wrapper was soaked at the hem. She was alone, or so she thought. She didn't notice the tiny silver bubbles rising near the reeds, nor did she see the pair of dark, ancient eyes watching her from the shadow of a massive iroko tree across the bank. In the village of Ehiama, there were two sisters, Adanna, the elder, and Nneka, the younger. Adanna was like the charcoal, useful but dark and hard. Nneka was like the flame, bright, dancing, and loved by everyone she touched. Nneka was to be betrothed to the king's first son. The village was already preparing the drums. Jealousy, like a slow-growing vine, wrapped itself around Adanna's heart until she could hardly breathe. "Come, sister," Adanna said one evening, her voice like honey dripping over a blade. "Let us go to the deep bend of the river to wash our hair for the festival. The water there makes the hair shine like silk." They reached the high rocks where the water was deep and dark. Nneka, trusting and laughing, knelt at the edge. She loosened her beads and leaned over to wet her hair. "Is it true, Adanna?" Nneka asked, her voice bright. "Do you think the prince will truly love me?" "He will love the memory of you," Adanna whispered. With a sudden violent shove, Adanna pressed her palms into Nneka's back. There was no scream, only a heavy splash and the sight of Nneka's yellow wrapper swirling beneath the surface like a dying leaf. Adanna watched until the last bubble vanished. She then took Nneka's beads, hid them in the hollow of a tree, and ran back to the village, tearing her own clothes and rubbing dust into her hair. "The spirits!" Adanna wailed as she entered the village gates. "A great water serpent took her. I tried to grab her, but she was gone." The village mourned. Adanna played the part of the grieving sister perfectly. She sat in the dust, she refused to eat, and slowly the prince began to turn to her for comfort. But Adanna began to hear things. Every time she walked near a pot of water, she heard a faint, melodic humming. Every time it rained, she saw the shape of a hand reaching out from the puddles. She didn't know that Obi, the village madman who lived in the forest, had been sitting in the branches of the iroko tree that day. Obi didn't speak to people, he spoke to the birds. But he had seen the push. He had seen the coldness in Adanna's eyes. On the day Adanna was to be announced as the new prince's bride-to-be, the village gathered at the river bank for a blessing. "Where is the girl who fought the serpent?" the priest asked. Adanna stepped forward, looking radiant in a new purple wrapper. But as she stood at the water's edge, Obi walked out from the trees. He held something in his hand, Nneka's yellow wrapper, which had drifted downstream and caught on his fishing line. Obi didn't point a finger. He simply began to sing a song he had heard the riverbed singing. "Two went down, but one came up. The water is deep, but the truth is a cup. One hand pushed and the other hand lied, but the eyes in the trees saw how the sister died." The prince looked at the yellow cloth. He looked at Adanna's hands, which had begun to turn a ghostly pale blue. The river suddenly surged, splashing against Adanna's feet. To everyone's horror, the water didn't fall away. It began to climb her legs like vines, turning into liquid chains. Adanna didn't wait for the guards. The weight of her guilt and the pull of the water were too much. She was dragged into the depths by a force no man could fight. Today, they say that if you go to that river bend, you will see two fish, one gold and bright and one dark and always hiding under the rocks. The village proverb, The river may hide a body, but it always keeps the echoes of the crime.